All right, good morning, everyone. And I'm so excited to be here. I would like to welcome you all to yet another exciting session of our NGO Organizational Effectiveness Workshop, brought to you by American Spaces in Nigeria, of course, with generous support from the US Consulate General in Lagos. My name is Stephanie Adesonya. I'm the director for the American Corner Ikeja, and I will be hosting and moderating today's session. It's my, real good pleasure to introduce our speaker for today to you. If you don't already know, our topic for this module, this session is program development. Okay, and our wonderful speaker is Chibuzo Charles Agomo. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been
you're right.
trying to learn how to pronounce that name. I'm right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. Okay. And he is a youth development professional with over 11 years of professional experience, is the founder of Sunrise Youth Intervention Organization, a youth development organization working to equip youth with essential life skills needed to make proper life choices for productive living. He has implemented dozens of projects in Nigeria, Ethiopia, Gambia, and the United States, and more. He is an author of the book, Rising at Sunrise. Right here, I have a copy of the book, which I'm showing you up. You can all see it. It's a youth development book, currently read in over 12 countries. He is a 2018 Mandela Washington Fellow. Currently, he serves as a youth engagement specialist on the Community Engagement Exchange Program of the US Department of State. He's no stranger to us at American Spaces in Nigeria. He did a book reading of this book that I mentioned in his profile, across some of our spaces. And so some of you will be familiar with our speaker today. This book, you should get a copy. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you our speaker for today, Chibuzo, and he's going to be, talking, his topic is program development. And we have this today, Thursday, next week, Monday, and next week, Thursday. So 4 sessions of program development. I hope you all are ready for what he has to offer today. And so with that, I would like to welcome you, Chibuzo, once again. Thank you so much, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you so much. And I also want to use this opportunity to thank you for your support during the book reading in the American Space in Ikeja. Thank you so much. And I want to welcome everyone to today's session on program development. I want to commend the American Spaces for putting this program together because I feel this is very essential for those of us in the development space. And also, I also want to commend those of you that have chosen to attend this training. I don't know how long it has been, but your commitment is priceless. So I must commend you. Over here in Calabar, it's a rainy Thursday morning. And nonetheless, we're going to have a great time having this wonderful moment, looking at program development. I have requested that the American Space will help me share slides because I noticed a kind of issue with my laptop. I'm using my iPhone to connect at this moment, so I'll be able to flow seamlessly. Now, one of the disadvantages of virtual engagement is that talk in one place, and you can't maybe you find it difficult to really engage with people. And I'm the kind of person that I love on-site facilitation, engage with the people, talk, and do certain group activities to make it fun. But nonetheless, we're going to try as much as we can to make this very lively and very interesting. To begin today's session on program development, I want to tell a story to really buttress the importance of this training before we begin, and to help us understand why it is very essential for us to have this training. Now, program development on a nutshell is the process involved in developing a program. And it's so important because if we do not factor this in our plan in designing programs, we may end up wasting resources and we may end up not meeting our target audience, not benefiting the people who need that support most. So let me use a particular case, for example, that happened in a riverine community somewhere in Nigeria. So this particular organization, in partnership with the federal government, had said to themselves, "Oh, I feel that the fishermen in this community, they need support, they need modern fishing tools, they need all of this, all of that. The canoe they are using is not doing a great job. Let's get them these modern fishing tools." And tens of millions of naira was pumped into that project. And they got a number of fishermen. I don't know if they trained them on how to use um, this tool. Can you hear me? Someone is saying they can't hear me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a bit, if you move closer, yes, we can. Yes.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Can you hear me now better?
Yes, much better.
Much better now. Okay. So I was talking about a particular rural community in Nigeria that a certain organization in partnership with the federal government thought they could bring up an intervention to support the fishermen in that locality. And they looked on the surface and assumed that these fishermen actually needed a modern fishing tool, which include fishing boats and a whole lot of things. With that assumption, they spent tens of millions of naira. This happened several years ago, getting these tools for this community and telling them, well, at least this is going to further increase their livelihood, make things better for them, and all that and all that. Here is the sad thing that happened. Not long afterwards, not long after that the government had spent money getting this new boat, new fishing tools, not long afterwards that this organization had worked to make sure that these fishermen were able to get this facility. A few months after, these fishermen left those boats and went back to their canoes to continue their fishing and left those modern boats lying in waste. And you look at it and you ask yourself, but these fishermen actually need these boats to improve their work. But then it brings us to the question of apparent needs and real needs. Apparent needs and real needs. The apparent need is that these fishermen actually require, to have this modern fishing tools to do a good job in their business. But actually, that is not the real need. These fishermen do not really need modern fishing boats to go about their fishing. And this is why project development is very, very important because it helps us separate the difference between apparent need and real need. In order for us not to waste resources, like the government did with this particular community, maybe another community needed that intervention more, but they had wasted it on this community that apparently did not need to have this intervention. So I don't know if they could help me share the slide so we could begin. All right, so while they're still in the process of helping with the slide, I would like, I don't know if there's anyone amongst us who has had this experience working on a project with an organization, thinking that this community needed this intervention, only to realize that they, they do not really need that intervention. I would like someone, if you have had that kind of experience, I would like you to indicate by a lift of hand emoji and our host will unmute your microphone, or you could unmute your microphone and share your experience.
That's to share ideas on based on apparent needs.
Okay, is there anyone? I hope you can hear me. Some persons are saying they can't hear me.
We can hear you. Hi,
Does anyone want to share?
Yeah, my people,
Okay, we
American
have two
Corner
hands up.
Calabar.
So
Good morning,
How
ma'am.
are you? Good morning.
I'm doing well, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, so I would like someone to share their experience.
Hello, good morning. Hello, good
Good morning,
morning.
ma'am. Good
Yes,
morning,
I'm
ma'am.
Kudirat. I'm Kudirat Ola. I'm of American Corner Ikeja here. So I'm not in class today because I'm down. What happened that sometimes around 2008, 2009, I was a district Rotaract representative of District 910. That is Rotaract. I don't know if anybody knows about Rotary. So that is the junior chamber of Rotary. So sometimes like that, we have an international partner to see to a project in somewhere in Ilaro. And this is all about cholera, you know. So we don't really do much. We just went there, we administered the drug, giving them the drug just like that, because we don't really know much about it at then. So after some times, the death rate of cholera increases because we thought that is what they need immediately, giving that drug to those who have choleras and some other things like that. By the end of the day, we have to go back to start all over. That's why I like the last class we did, taking, data, calling people, bringing professionals to start all over. We thought what they need at that particular point that was drug, but not knowing that there are more to it than drug. So we have to start all over again. That took us to almost another 4 months before we can end our project. Wow. Yes, because we didn't take data, we didn't see to the resources. I forgot what the last time speaker called it, the resources they have. So we have to go back to start all over. We've already even write a report telling them we are done with the project, but they have project evaluation, which go back to that site to see what we have done, not knowing that we have not done anything. The death rate of that cholera increases. We have to start all over, do all what necessary. That took us another 4 months to finish the project. That is the little experience I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing that experience. Those in the development space can relate to what you have shared. Any other person with similar experience? I would like at least two persons, and then.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Lillian. I'm from the Ibadan, at the American State Ibadan. Okay, so I'm currently in transit, so I hope you can hear me. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So my experience, a similar thing happened when I was working with one of an upcoming e-commerce platform. So the idea for the platform was to deal solely in made in Africa products. But then I think the owner also involved laundry, food items. It was really broad. So he started up the platform, and then by the time it got to funding, a lot of people were not interested in funding because they said it looked very vague. because they were doing too many things at the same time. So it took us like about 6 months going back to the drawing board to redo the whole model all over again, to now exclude certain things, because some of the investors were saying you had to limit what it is that you want to export from Africa. Because of course, I mean, getting things out of, it's easier to import things than to export. So if you're talking about exporting food, are you going to dry it? What is the processing? So that's kind of it really threw us off balance while we were doing that work, because we had put a lot already into getting vendors and signing up vendors for the platform. But because of that particular issue of we're doing too many things. So we had to all go back and now streamline. So if it's clothing or food, we didn't think about the processes. I don't know if I'm passing the message across properly.
Yeah.
We didn't think
Yeah.
about any of the processes at all. We didn't think of what it would take to export local food. We didn't think of what it would take to say, okay, you have a vendor who makes strictly African clothes. How many would the person produce? How much are you going to export? So that was my experience. It was a bit shocking because we all thought we had a good thing going, but by the time it came to actually implementing it, everything was just thrown out. Like, it was too vague, it was too many things, and we had to streamline. So that's my experience with that.
Thank you so much for your contribution. And it's really interesting to hear feedback from all the experiences of someone from the development space and someone from Bumi, you could mute your microphone. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you so much for that, for sharing your story, because that will give us a premise to this class that we're about to have. So I would like us to move to the next slide as we begin. So those of us that have undergone human-centered design training in project management, some of you may be like, oh, you may feel like you're I already know this, but the essence of this training is like a refresher's course to refresh our minds on certain things we know. And then there are also persons who have not undergone trainings like that. It's an opportunity to expose them to this training. So today I'll be handling Unit 1 and 2. Then in the next class we're going to have, I would handle subsequent units. So today basically is going to look at the introduction. We'll look at needs assessments and community consultation and all of those things that are very, very essential in program development. So I'd like to go to the next slide. Okay, so here it talks about the purpose and the learning objective, which I do not want to bore you with. You would have access to the slide. Actually, in summary, the essence of this class on program development is to help you understand how to build a plan for a project tailored for a particular community from start to finish. And especially because implementation is very important. Someone would say, like we would say in Pidgin, implementation, because when you face the implementation, that is when you see things you never envisioned at all at the onset, especially if you just took up the project as a whim, you just chose to improvise, you would definitely hit your head on a brick wall. There's a quote that says, the one who knows how to walk cannot be compared to the one who knows where he's going. The one who knows how to walk cannot be compared to the one who knows where he's going. So you may know how to walk, but then if you don't know where you're going, that's a terrible issue on the other side. So that is the summary of the purpose of this class, to help you not just know how to walk, but also to know where you're going, to have the desired result. So we'll go to the next slide. So here it says, what is program development. So it says program development is an ongoing comprehensive planning process used to establish projects. Quality program development is supported by well thought out and documented plan of action. So like I said earlier on, it's just knowing how to draw your plan for a project from start to finish, the intricate details in between. Because if you do not factor that, you know definitely there will be a problem. And that I love the way this program, this class is designed, such that we're going to have 4 classes and we're not going to rush through things. So we can carefully look at each of the aspects of program development. And one of the things I will encourage you to do if you have a note, because I like to draw at times. I'm not good at drawing, but I just like to do sketches. So you could just do a sketch in your note as though you are on a journey. Like someone who is on a journey from Calabar to Lagos, using the bus. You would move from Calabar and then you drive through, depending on the route, you could use a bus, you could use a Enugu, or then you bust into 2 different locations. So I would want you to take the different steps and phases we would be undergoing in this training as the different stops. So here it says, this training is a resource that assists in designing and implementing programs. It is created so that you will understand what a program is designed to do, what steps are required to design the program, what resources are required to implement your plans, and what measures can be used to determine whether you have successfully achieved your goals. This is very essential. I believe this is like one of the most important classes for this training. And so it's very important to take note of the things we are going to be looking at. So here still in the introduction, it's going to highlight some of the things that we will be giving emphasis to. So one of it is planning. So planning is an important step in the program development process. Often we hear program planning. We think of a lengthy formal document filled with statistics, charts, and technical reports. In fact, planning can be as simple or as complex as you desire, though an elaborate document is usually unnecessary. And then the slide goes further to say, nevertheless, you will need a planning strategy that requires identifying goals and objectives, conducting a needs assessment. So I want you to put down in your notes needs assessment, because that's something we're going to be looking at. Put down in your notes planning, and then put down in your notes needs assessment. To analyze the situation, setting priorities based upon the needs identified, identifying stakeholders and resources, designing an action plan. Action plan is another thing to also put down in your notes. Implementing that plan and assessing your level of achievement. So that last line talks about monitoring and evaluation, which is an important part of a project. So the next point we're looking at is content of the program plan. Content of the program plan. So planning a program is like building a house. You can't build a house if there is no plan, if you have not drafted the plan. And that's why we need architects. And so if you, no matter how small your project is, it's important for you to draft a program plan. This is the first stage in program development, the program plan. So it says here, planning needs not to be cumbersome, a lengthy process. It shouldn't be so. It should be brief and written in plain language. It should define what the program is designed to do, the resources required, and the measures that will be used to determine whether the program is achieving your objective. The key to success is a systematic, realistic planning effort rather than glossy, formal planning document. So now this point is very, very important, because in designing a program plan, everyone is going to read it. There's going to be a team that is going to read that document. Everyone is going to read it. There should be no room for ambiguity. Nothing should be vaguely written. It should be written in very simple language. because let's say you are the head of that team, you could be moved to another team and there is someone else who is going to take over. Or there could be new team members along the line. One of the things that can help them really, really flow with the program is a well-written document, a plan that is very carefully, stated, very detailed. And so that is something to factor in planning your project or your program. And here, this side of the slide says, why is program development important? Program development is essentially a roadmap, an action plan that provides the guidance needed to develop and build effective community programs. As an action plan, program development is an ongoing and continuous process because your program is fluid and likely to change depending on your needs. It should continue to evolve. Okay, so here is what the point, this point is stating. When you begin a fresh project, it could be a youth intervention program, it could be a health intervention program, or what have you, and you are starting it in a location for the first time. There are bound to be loopholes here and there, and identifying those loopholes helps you. Taking note of those loopholes, taking note of those errors, help you to effect efficient corrections, to effect the necessary corrections in those areas so that next time you're working on a fine strategy, you're working on a refined plan. So that's one of the advantages, because of course it states here it's an ongoing program development. It's ongoing because you would continue with this program from time to time, maybe in a different location, and you know what works and what doesn't work, and you know how to take out the things that are not necessary and include the things you found necessary, in the course of implementing that program. So it goes further to say program development allows us to document each action or step so that we are able to conduct needed assessment and determine areas where modifications can be needed. In program planning, we identify major needs, set objectives, establish priorities, and generally chart a direction for growth and development. Program planning also allows us to identify shortcomings and weaknesses and chart a new course of action should priorities and needs change. Exactly what I had stated earlier on. So in the planning stage of program development, you are taking note of the tools that are efficient. You're learning to discover that certain things are not needed in the course of implementing that program, and then you discard them to include something that you know would produce robust results for that project, the outcome. So we go to the next slide. The next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So here we have the planning process. The planning process, of course, which is the start of the program. Let's say you're starting the program for the first time. So it says that the planning process provides the foundation for sound decision making in setting program priorities and using resources. It provides gathering, analyzing, and interpreting data. And I'm going to talk about, subsequently, I'm going to talk about the importance of baseline survey and your end line survey. Okay, so I go on. It says analyzing and interpreting data, identifying community needs, concerns, and assets, and communicating the results. Program planning is an ongoing comprehensive process that is intended to improve effectiveness. And some of the questions to be addressed during the planning process, very important questions to be addressed is, we have a chart here that would help you. It says planning step, and planning. Let me look at it closely. Get it. Planning issues. Okay. All right. So under the planning steps, we have conduct needs assessment, develop goals, identify resources, assign leadership tasks. And I'm going to take my time in this area to really, really explain this and why it's very, very essential. So the first planning step is conduct needs assessment. And yeah, this chart is assuming that we're working on a project that has to do with HIV and AIDS, addressing a HIV and AIDS problem in the community. So it goes here to say, under planning issues, it says what HIV/AIDS problems does the community need to address? What are the high-risk populations in your community? What populations are at risk? What are its met needs and what are its unmet needs? So now I'm going to dwell a bit on conducting needs assessment. Now, stakeholders consultation is very essential in program development. Consulting stakeholders, when you go into a community, like I said, one of the problems those in the development space, or maybe those who are interested in starting a business or whatever you have, many times they go into this with assumption. You assume that this community needs this problem, it needs this solution. You assume that this intervention will work best. And when you go there, all of your plans fall as pack of cards. So stakeholder consultation or stakeholders consultation is essential because you are able to meet people in that community that have direct access to members of that community. And you're able to ask questions and you are able to hear them and get feedback. And also you are able to start your baseline survey where you are able to draw data from the people directly to know what exactly the people need and what tools will work best with them because no community is the same. Communities are different. And so this is why needs assessment is important because it helps you know the level of the problem, that you are addressing and know what tools you need at that moment in time to solve that particular need. And so it's very essential to take note of. Then the next one we see here is develop goals. Develop goals. And in developing goals, the planning issue to consider there is what results can be achieved in the next year? Or what results can be achieved in the next 3 years? Yeah. So you have to set goals. And of course, those of us that have done goal setting know about the SMART goal. So you need to have a timeline. How long are you going to implement this project? And in monitoring the outcome, what is the duration? What do you hope to see? What do you hope to accomplish over a period of time to make you feel that, okay, the intervention we brought into this community was worth it or is giving us the result that we need. So the next thing to also consider is identify resources. Identify resources. Resources are very important. It's not just money. Of course, if you're in the development space, you know that money is not the only resource you need, as important as it is. There are a lot of other things. You need people. You need a whole lot, aside the infrastructure that you might need to help you with the project. But you have to identify the resources you need. So here it says under the planning issue, what resources does the program need to achieve its goal? What resources do we need to achieve our goal? And then the next question to ask, still under identifying resources, what social network, educational institutions, businesses, or other community building activities are available to address the problem? So, this is the phase where you employ serious critical thinking skills and problem solving skills. you are able to consider all options available to you. And you're able to think it through to be able to arrive at something really substantial. You know, like I said earlier on, if you are not careful, you're going to waste resources. And if it's a grant you've received and you mess up, of course, it means you are not going to get grants from that particular organization in the future. And I believe that one of the reasons the American spaces is putting this training together with the support of the US company is to help us understand better how to plan for programs so that by the time you're submitting that proposal, by the time you're submitting your proposal for that grant, you know what exactly you're asking for. So the next, which is the last under this chart, is assign leadership tasks. Assign leadership tasks. So you're working with a team. And of course, you have to ask yourself who will be responsible for each part of the program, and how will the program be led and coordinated. You know, so you of course, this part the importance of this part cannot be estimated. The team you're working with has to be really, really considered. You know, so that's that with this planning process, which I want you to properly take note of. As we move to the next slide, all right, so still dwelling on the planning process. Yeah, I go back to the chart. There is the next one that says implementation, linkages, and collaboration. Implementation, linkages, and collaboration. And under the planning issues, there are very important questions. What relationship do you need to establish with other social service agencies, community organizations, and faith-based organizations? Does this program fit with others? What procedures will keep the program on track? So this part is very important because in implementing a program in a particular locality, many times, of course, you can't do it alone. Many times you would need the collaborative effort of different organizations to help you. And so you need to really ask yourself what relationship you need to establish with the strategic groups or the strategic agencies that you really need to work with to help you accomplish the goals of this program. Because of course, networking is so vital. Networking is so vital. It is one resource that is, in fact, top on the list for me in a project is your social network, the people, the linkages, the collaboration. Because meaningful collaborations can help you do large, produce robust results with little financial resources. And so this part is very, very important to consider. The next planning step to consider is identify funding sources. Identify funding sources. And so the question to ask is, where will the money come from? Where will the money come from? Is it going to come from grants? Is it going to come from, fundraising from people in the community? How is the funding going to come? These are the things to consider, and this happens in the planning stage. Then the next one, conduct evaluation. Conduct evaluation. And the question to ask is, how can you determine whether you have met your objective? And the last part is program revision, which asks the question, what changes are needed to improve the program? So many times as you go on with the program, maybe you are far gone into the program, you begin to discover that I think there are things we need to change. There are things we need to adopt. There are things we need to start. There are things we need to bring in. And so this is where program revision plays a very, very important role. So here before us is a program development seven-step model for program development. So it includes the things I've mentioned earlier on and the things I'm going to mention subsequently. So the first step in this diagram, the first step is conduct needs assessment. Conduct needs assessment. You know, you could, many times we see people wake up and say, this thing is going to change the game. It's going to change things. It's going to help the people. It's going to help the people. Many times it's all in your head. It might be a very good solution, but is it a good solution for the people? Like I gave the story of the riverine community that this organization and the federal government spent so much money getting them boats and high-tech fishing tools to use to fish, hoping it's going to improve their livelihood, hoping it's going to help change things in that community, only for these fishermen to discard those boats and went back to their canoe to do their business, you know. So needs assessment helps you to know actually what is the need of your target audience. So the task that the needs assessment process requires of you is to describe your target audience, identify the problem, and you know the program planning process and need for your agency to address the problem. So you are able to, you know, lay out your target demographic. What is the demographic? What's your target audience? Who are you willing to reach? Who is the program tailored? Who is the program designed for? You know, and identify the problem. When I started, I talked about apparent needs and real needs, apparent problems and real problems. So, okay, let me use an example to explain what I mean by apparent needs and real needs. So let's say you, of course, you earn a salary at the end of the month and you feel there are things that need to be done in the house. So an apparent need, if you look at your house, might be, okay, we need to change maybe you told yourself, I think I don't like this ash curtain. I think I need to get gold color curtain. I need to get gold color curtain. We need gold color curtain in the house. That's a need. You know, you need to change the curtain, right? Then there are other needs too. There is the house needs food and to pay the electric bill and whatever. So the apparent need is we need to change the curtains. But the real need is we need to get food in the house. Because, you know, the real needs are needs that threaten the sustainability of that community. The real needs are needs that if we do not address this problem, if we do not address this need, this community is going to collapse. And so we're going to do everything it takes to make sure that we help this community survive. And there are apparent problems that does not really threaten the existence or the survival or the sustainability of that community. And you know, that's where a lot of people make that mistake of jumping into bringing a solution that is not really needed by that community. So that's the task you need to carry out. And then, you know, in that step one, we look at key players responsible. So what are the key players responsible? The program planner. Your program planner has to be very actively involved in conducting this needs assessment. And what are the products the program planner would need? Program planner will need worksheets, which includes questions to include in your questionnaire, collecting data on existing organization. You know, this step one is where you take up your baseline survey to know the level of the problem and to know, okay, does this community need it as good as this solution? Do they really need it? And that gives you the answer. Your baseline survey gives you the answer. So we look at step two, which is develop mission, goals, and objectives. And this is very important, of course, because if you don't have goals, if you don't have objectives, what exactly do you want? What exactly are you hoping to achieve? This answers the question. So the task to take up here is develop goals and accurately reflect potential solutions to the problems found during the needs assessment. Accurately reflect. So, brainstorming is very important. Of course, you will consider multiple potential solutions and you weigh them to know which is a strategic fit for that community. That is what this second stage does with the help of your needs assessment, which is step one. So step one allows you to get that data. And then step two helps you set your goals with the help of that data. And then it goes further to say here that this step two helps you establish realistic goals that describe how the program will affect target population. And the key players responsible here, program planner. Program planner here, if you are working with a team, your program planner here has to take this very, very seriously. And then the products to use here, worksheets, which will state the mission statement and the goal. Now, why is this step two very important? Stating your mission, your goals and objectives, because it helps everyone in the team know exactly what you're doing. And also, it helps them know exactly where you're going. Because without this, it's like walking in a desert. Nobody knows where they're going. It's going to cause so much confusion. So this is very important to create so that everyone on the team knows that they are on the same page with you. And so we look at step three. Now that we have conducted needs assessment, now that we have developed mission and goals and objectives for this program, we have to identify funding sources to enable us, make sure that this program is actually implemented. And so what's the task involved? Here it says, determine how much money is needed and develop a list of funding sources. So this is where budgeting comes to play. This is where budgeting comes to play. And then the key players responsible here are the executive director, the finance expert, and the grant writer. So it's very important to factor how much money is needed in this program. It's very important to consider, what is needed and where the money is going to go to. And these are the people that would that are really needed. These are the stakeholders in this area to be consulted. And the products needed are, is the worksheet, which of course the worksheet there includes resource identification and webbing form. So step three is very, very important. And it can only be done, of course, after step one and step two. So we go to step four. Assign leadership tasks. So the task here, identify perspectives and people who will lead each step. Of course, in implementation, if you do not set a team and properly communicate what this team needs to do, you have a problem. So leadership here is a very important factor in program development. You have a team, everyone needs to know what their role is. Everyone needs to know what they need to do. And in my book, Rising at Sunrise, one of the chapters I talked about the belt of collaboration. I stressed on the importance. It's a book I wrote for young people. I stressed on the importance of learning to work as a team. And one of the things I highlighted in the book is the importance of communication. The importance of communication. Everyone needs to know what is expected of them, and they need to be held accountable. They need to be held accountable for the particular stage of the project that they've been assigned to. And so the key players here that are responsible for managing this segment of the program development is department director, and the executive director. And the product here is your worksheet. So you have program planning team roster. Everyone knows what they are to do and when they are to do it, which is very important. So we go to step 5, which we have in the next slide. Step 5. Step 5 says design program. Design program. So the task here is establish the details of your final program. Identify collaborators. Describe your staffing needs. Determine how you will evaluate it and how much it will cost. Create a budget that includes salaries and benefits, shared costs, program costs, and indirect costs. So here is also a very essential part of program development. Now you're designing the program, everything that needs to be involved. You've done the needs assessment, you've set your goals, you've identified funding, and you have set up a team. Now, this is where you now have to know where exactly is the money going to? Where are we pushing the money? What exactly are we doing in the program? This is where you now know what you have. And the key players here involve the program planner, the program planning team, and staff. Everyone is involved in the design. And this part also involves brainstorming, because you need to sit with these key players and talk about if the whole staff needs to contribute to what exactly the team needs to make this program produce the outcome that it requires, or the outcome that is expected. And the products needed here, worksheets here. And we have here interventions, process and outcome objectives, intervention timeline, collaboration and coordination, evaluation plan, staffing plan, budget. So you have to have worksheets on these. There's a worksheet on intervention, there's a worksheet on process and outcome objectives, there's a worksheet on intervention timeline and collaboration and coordination. All of these things managed by the different subunits in the team. And so we go to step 6, implement program. So now that everyone knows what is expected of them, they know the task at hand and what should be done. Step 6, implement program. And so the task involves conduct media campaigns, recruit volunteers, develop collaboration, and implement activities. And the key players responsible are the program director and staff. The products you need here, fill the worksheet. Worksheets for media campaign, worksheets for that also has to do with volunteers and management. So this part is very important because the media campaign helps the people, your target audience, your target community, understand that there is an intervention coming. We are bringing an intervention and we want you to be part of it. This intervention is for you. Because the people you're designing this intervention for, they need to know that you are there, you are here for them. Because if you do not organize any of these, like you're on your own, especially if you are working in a community of people who are not educated. You need to do a lot of this because their perspective is different from your perspective. And so you have to, this is why, for example, still using the HIV/AIDS program as a case study, when you hear the jingles on radio, on TV, we try to use our pidgin English to make sure that both the educated and the non-educated understand that there is an intervention, and this intervention is for you. So this part is very, very important. And then we go to the next step, step 7, which says evaluate program. So you are far gone into the program. You have to look at it and say, this intervention we have employed to solve this problem? Is it as effective as we hope it will be? Is it producing the results that we were expecting? And so the task here is identify how you will verify documents and qualify program activities and their effects. Key players responsible here are the program director or the program evaluation consultant. The products to use here, the worksheet, which you know will state the outcome and efficiency, which will highlight outcome and efficiency questions to really help you know if you're on the right path and what exactly is expected of you. All right, so this is unit. We're going to unit 2. Towards the end of in about 30 minutes, I should be done with unit 2, and then I'll give room for question and answer. And not just question and answer, because we have experienced people in the development space here. And it's also going to be a learning process too. We would also want to hear from you what your experience has been in program development, working with different organizations, providing intervention in different communities. So we would love to hear from you, your experience. So we go to unit 2, and it's still the very important element of program development. And here we're going to pay very close attention to needs assessment. The needs assessment you cannot ignore this part. It is so essential. It is so essential. And this unit is going to help us break down some of the things we need to know. So what is the purpose of this unit under program development? This unit explains the purpose of conducting a needs assessment and explains how program assessment can be useful in documenting programs and their effects, determining gaps and unmet needs, and improving the service delivery in your community. And so what are the learning objectives I hope for us to come away with by the end of our engagement with Unit 2? So by the end of this, okay, someone is saying I should turn off the fan. Okay, I'm going to do that. Just give me. So thank you for pointing that out. I've turned it off. Thank you. Yes, so one of the learning objectives that I want us that this unit, the purpose of this unit, and the things we need to consider in this unit is, number one, it says here, by the end of this unit, learners will be able to explain what the needs assessment determines and how this information can be used in program planning. Describe what should be included in a needs assessment. 3, explain the steps in conducting a needs assessment and describe how this information will be applied in the context of your organization. So I would want you to, like I said at the beginning, have your notes with you, because we're going to do some sketches on your notes. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right, so what is needs assessment? A needs assessment determines what programs and services your community needs. These assessment is an essential part of the planning process when designing successful community initiatives. It also provides planners with the information needed to prioritize goals according to identified needs. The needs assessment determines, number one, what needs exist in the community. And like I said, when I started, not just apparent needs, but real needs. Number 2, what group needs the services? What other programs and services already exist to address the problem? Number 4, how the user community is changing. And the last point, whether resources are adequate. So when I was speaking in Unit 1, I talked about baseline survey, which is needed in needs assessment. You can't do a proper needs assessment without this. Okay. So this is where you have your questionnaire where you ask questions. And this also involves, like I said earlier, on stakeholders consultation. You are able to consult with the key players, the key people in that community. You're able to ask questions. So for example, in certain localities, you find key players. Key players could be traditional rulers in that community, the stakeholders, I mean. It could be religious leaders. If it's a youth development program, it could be schools and youth organizations. You consult them. You make your findings, you ask questions, and understand the level of need that community has, and then know what to do. But then it doesn't end there. You don't just stop there, because as we go further, we're going to look at the advantages and disadvantages of these two, assessing needs from these two angles. They have the advantage, but you will not just end there. This is where you go to the community itself, have direct interaction with the people, and hear from them and know what they want. Because sometimes just depending on stakeholders, their contributions could be colored with bias or privilege, because these are some of the things. So I wouldn't want to jump ahead. I just have to state that to help us really, really know why needs assessment is very, very important. So we go to the next slide. So steps in assessing needs. So the first thing to look at is a profile of the population you intend to serve, which is your target audience, the target population. So you have to consider your target audience, and so you know who exactly, because if you're serving everybody, you're actually serving nobody. So you have to be specific. Are you serving women? Are you serving young women? Are you serving youth? Serving young girls? So these are the things to consider in assessing needs. I know there's a lot for me to say, so I'm going to try as much as I can not to eat up the time. So the next thing, like I mentioned earlier on, this is using HIV/AIDS as a case study, or like as an example to illustrate, as an illustration for what we're talking about in program development. Then the next thing is data on the current trends of HIV/AIDS epidemic in your community, especially HIV transmission and new HIV infection. So data here is very important. So you have to get data on the subject, what you're working on, so you know the level of the problem. Getting that data, very essential. And of course, one of the ways to assess that is getting to the community, asking questions, doing your survey, very essential. The next thing to under needs assessment, is an assessment of resiliency and protective factors, include information on individual protective factors, family protective factors, and community protective factors. So these are the things you need to consider. And then something else here, a risk profile of the target population that includes information on risk factors for HIV infection, substance abuse, and or related problems. Then the next one, unmet needs. Identify the gaps in community services that you intend to fill. So this is like a 360-degree overview of that community. You are looking at it, you're looking at the problem, its length, its breadth. You make sure that you you leave nothing missing, to make sure that you actually know what you are targeting, because you are in that community to solve a problem. You are in that community to introduce an intervention, and you need to know exactly the weight of the problem you are fighting. You know, it's like war. It's like war. If you're going to fight an opponent, you need to look at the strength of the opponent. You need to look at what they can do, their strengths, their weaknesses, and all of that, before you can say, okay, I am ready for this battle, and you can now step out. It's the same thing with taking up a project, you know, developing a program for a community, because you're developing an arsenal. You are developing a toolbox that would provide solutions for that community. And you have to make sure that you have all the required tools in your tool set to ensure that that is solved. You don't want to be in a situation where you get in and you start the program and then you discover that, oh, we are not equipped to handle this aspect of the program, and then everything is just left to wait. So we go to the next slide. So here we are going to look at community forums. Community forums. And this is part of the needs assessment process. And even though I've talked about it, the stakeholders consultation and all, it is very, very essential. Like I said, so you do not run into a community with assumptions, thinking that this intervention will produce a solution, and then only to discover that you just wasted your time and your resources. We've seen a lot of this happen. You know, when we started the class, some professionals here graciously shared their experience working on a project and how and what they discovered at the middle of that project. Oh, this intervention is not actually the best. So, community forums. So, what does this mean? And why is this important? So, community forum, a means of collecting information about the needs of the community through a series of public meetings. They may rely on information from both key informants and people in the general population. So, of course, those of you in the development space, like I said, we have professionals here. We don't have who have done this for many, many years. They can understand what this means. You know, by the time you're going into a community, it's of course it's very essential to meet with the people in that. And the chart, the column beside this helps us understand why this is important. Ways to conduct a needs assessment, choosing the approach, community forums and hearings. Now, how do we go about this? I would like us to really pay close attention here, because this is what is going to help us in designing interventions for communities, not just for those in the NGO space, but also those in business, so social enterprises. They can pick from here, from this, to learn how to produce solutions or products that the community needs and would find relevant over an extended period of time. So community forums and hearings. This approach is designed around a series of public meetings and relies on information from key groups and individuals with the general population. So what's the advantage of this? Number one, it's easy to arrange. Number two, it's least expensive approach. Number three, educates attendees. Number four, describes needs to public to obtain validation. Now that validation is important, because bringing it to the people in the public, it's satisfying to hear from the people you've come to help with this intervention. It's satisfying to hear them say, oh, we need this intervention. You know, that's very, very, very important. Number five, allows citizen input. Yes, because this aspect is very important. The people that you are going to help, the members of that community that you want to provide solutions for, it's important for you to hear from them. You know what? It's important for them to hear your modus operandi, and for them to look at it and see if actually this is going to fit them. I sometimes use an example. For example, during COVID, we had organizations that were moving from place to place, organizing sensitization for community. And so let's say you have a PhD in public health and you have a program to help the spread of COVID, and you are to go to a rural market to organize programs for market women to help them understand the importance of social distancing, washing their hands, using hand sanitizer, and all of that. And then instead of you to use the pidgin English, or maybe get someone who knows the local language to help you interpret, you decide to hold your public health lecture for market for market women. You know, if you consult with the people and hear from stakeholders, you will be able to know that a significant portion of the people that you're speaking to are uneducated, and your means of communication has to be either using the local language or pidgin English. So this is one of the advantage when you have these community forums. You're able to get citizen input on how best to reach the people in that community. And then the last part under the advantage is that data is easily available at low cost. Data is easily available. You're able to get ample amount of data to work with and at low cost. But also you have to also consider the disadvantage of community forums and hearings. So one of the disadvantages is, number one, attendees may not represent the population in need of the service. Yes, I've seen that happen before. So it could just be people could just come, but they do not represent the population of the people who need that service. So let's say you want to hold, or you want to implement a family planning intervention in a community, and let's say there are about 100 people in that community forum and community here, and you have let's say 10 women in that meeting. That you are not really going to get exactly what you want. So because the people who need that service are the women, they should be there more. So sometimes when you just gather people, you may not have the required people you need for that. It's a disadvantage, but there's a way to go about it. Point number two, attendees' perception of need may be incorrect. Attendees' perception of need may be incorrect. Yes. So you could find some of the attendees say, "Oh, we need this, we need that," when actually there is a real need in that community. And of course, the baseline survey, which helps you hear from a significant number of the people in that community that you are designing that intervention for, will give you the answer. So yeah, there are times that the attendees, their perception may be flawed. So it's good to factor that. The third one can turn into a group session. Can turn into a group session where, and that can now distract the session, So that's it. Point number 4, can raise expectations too high. Can raise expectations too high. People may begin to think that, oh, your intervention is going to be the messiah solution that brings a complete end to all of their problems regarding that issue. And that's a disadvantage, but it doesn't mean that you can't have your way around that to curb that. So the essence of this class is to help you know the advantages and disadvantages, so you can know how to navigate your way around them. Know how to explore your way around them. All right, so we look at social indicators. This approach is based on inference, estimates of need drawn from descriptive data found in public records and reports such as crime statistics, employment, and diseases. So already there is for many issues or for many interventions that we are looking to provide for communities, there is data there already, and that could give you an advantage. There is data on that community, what intervention has been done, what the level of the problem is. Maybe it was at 70% 10 years ago, now it's at 30%, there's a decline, or it's still static. Those records, are very helpful in conducting your needs assessment. The advantage is that, number one, there is vast existing data pool. That's existing data pool for you to work with to design your program, develop your program. The next one, low cost. Low cost because it won't really cost you much. You could go to the agency that has that data and they could provide it for you, maybe at zero cost or at low cost. It's accessible. That could help you know what you're working with. The third advantage is that flexible design. It's easy for you to understand. It's easy for you to interpret. Easy for you to use it and incorporate it into your program development. The fourth advantage is foundation on which to build other needs assessments. So now you have this data, and one of the uses of needs assessment is to help you gather data. So social indicators gives you which is what you need, data to work with. Gives you that foundation to work with. So we'll check the next slide. So here we have service provider survey. But before we go there, we are going to look at the disadvantage of what we had talked about earlier on. So the first point to note here is, first disadvantage, must verify with other evidence that the need really exists. So you cannot just use one data report. You have to verify. You have to verify. Those of us that if you've done research, of course, you know that you don't just pick up your data from one source. You have to verify. Because if you do not verify, you could be working with data that is not very accurate, So you have to verify, confirm, to know that actually the data you're working with, that you have with you, is satisfactory and is valid. The second disadvantage is that data are only indirect measures of need, and which is true. The third point, personal or class bias of researchers can be introduced. Absolutely, absolutely. We see this happening a lot of times. There are certain researches that are done, and you can see that it is funded by maybe certain businesses, certain corporations. And so these researchers would try to twist their results to suit with the narrative that this corporation or this industry wants to hear. And you might end up working with data that is flawed and not correct. So this is why checking or confirming or verifying with other sources is very, 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 very important. And the fourth disadvantage is that few indicator series have been developed. Therefore, specialized staff skills are required to create them. So many times you do not need to depend on this data sources. Many times you need to gather your own data yourself. You need to develop your own data yourself. And that could be a lot of work. That could be a lot of work. So, but for you to design a program that your community needs and will produce results that will really, really change or produce the results you want to see, you really need to consider all of this. Service provider survey. service provider surveys. Research is directed at those who actually provide services to a population in your community, administrative program staff at other agencies. So here, like it says here, it's the research you are conducting is directed at those who need that service. And the advantage here is, first advantage, provides information on problems or service need, which may not be widely recognized. Number two, validate. I'm looking at time. I hope I don't eat into the time. Validates information on existing community resources and help develop overview. Okay, so in order, because there are other things I need to cover before we move to Q&A, we have a key informant survey, which is also very, very essential. And there are the advantages and the disadvantages. I would like us to go to the next slide. So here we're looking at surveys. So what does this entail? Research technique, surveys are research techniques based on a collection of data from a sample or the entire population of a community. This approach is designed to obtain information from respondents about their needs. And so at the beginning, I had talked about baseline survey, which is very, very essential to gather the information that we need. So looking at here, you find surveys. It says here, based on a collection of data from a sample or the entire population of the community. This approach is designed to elicit information from respondents about their needs. I think this is a very important part of needs assessment, because those of us that have done projects for communities, we have found ourselves do this. And in as much as you have already existing data to access to solve problems, that helps, and what have you, doing your own survey is very, very important. And many times when you apply for grants, the organizations you're applying to want to know what surveys you have done. They want to know what surveys you've done, and having your own baseline survey gives you that the data you require. So the advantage here is most scientifically valid and reliable approach. It's scientifically valid and reliable approach. The next advantage is most direct way to learn the information on the needs of individuals. It's a direct way to know the needs of individuals. You know, it's a first-hand, you're meeting with the people first-hand and you're hearing from them what their needs are. The third one, expands way to obtain information found through other techniques. So like I said, regarding data that already exists, one of the ways to confirm if this data actually is true is doing your own survey. So your own survey confirms to you or proves to you the validity of that of the data, and makes you really sure and confident of what you're doing. And the fourth point here, flexible cost and time frame, depending on whether general or target population is surveyed. And so flexible cost and time frame, that's an advantage. But we're going to look at the disadvantages. The disadvantages. Point number one, most expensive approach. Yes, it can be expensive, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Point number two, individuals chosen may be reluctant to respond. You see that happen. Requires extreme care in selecting a sample. Extreme care in selecting a sample. The sample there is the sample of the audience you are providing that intervention. So sometimes you need to be extremely careful to make sure that the people you are getting this data from are actually the people that need this, or the people that are affected by this need. The fourth point is requires specialized research skills. So this involves using expert workforce or skilled workforce. and sometimes getting skilled people to work on a project can be expensive. But like I said, if you want to produce a result that is robust and effective, it's worth it. The 3 points can require greatest amount of time. Yes, it might take ample amount of time having to move around an area, getting data from the people, it would take time. It would take time, but I'll still defend it. They say better soup than money killer. So it's the same thing, better soup than time killer. So you need to invest real time and resources to make sure you get that. And the disadvantage here, taking the disadvantage here does not mean that it's not giving you a reason to start this approach. It's giving you points to consider that, hey, it's not going to be a bed of these are the things you encounter. So you need to know what is at stake in going about this project. And the last advantage is choice of method. Person to person, mail, telephone must be clear and applicable to your community. Yeah, so if you're doing a person to person survey, you have to carefully analyze and look at it to know if it is a strategic fit, for your community. And you must be clear if the approach you're using to gather your survey is what your community needs. So we go to the next slide. Okay, so that's the end of Unit 2. We will tackle Unit 3 and Unit 4 in the next class, which is Monday. But in summary, what today has really helped us to do, it has helped us to look at the planning process and needs assessment. So I'm going to give room for contributions. I know we have some very experienced experts in our midst who can share a thing or two with us about program development from the experience, or maybe there are questions that you might have to ask or that you have to ask and you need answers to them. We would carefully look at it and provide answers to your question. So question time.
All right. Thank you so much, Chibuzo. Right on time. You finished, at the best time for us to take enough questions from our participants and get, good answers from you. Can we please appreciate our speaker this afternoon? Let's put our hands together for our speaker and appreciate him. Yes, thank you so much. That was fantastic. Do we have questions? Okay. So you can raise your hand using the reaction button or put it in the chat. Okay, Adediji John is clapping. Thank you for appreciating our speaker. Buki, thank you for appreciating our speaker. Okay, Oka Window in America has a question. We'll go right to Oka and see how Oka is doing today and take their question. Oka, please unmute yourself. Oka, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Mine is not really a question, sort of, but has to do with risk assessment and the baseline study. Someone mentioned it last week, when we did our risk assessment. So I want to contribute to maybe sort of a clarification. I hope you guys can hear me.
Oh, yes, we can.
So our understanding, like our people just finished now. This assessment is basically what the problems are, how you want to prioritize the problems, and how you want to help them solve the problem. For baseline study, it's basically what is on ground in that community for your intervention. For instance, once we want to talk about HIV prevalence in the community now, the baseline studies might be number of HIV positive persons in that community, the kind of services they get from the application, their access to their drugs and drugs to them. You have to know what those things are on ground before your intervention. That is baseline study. Then that report will now help you to further make an impact on your assessment. Because one of that you mentioned it last week, and I wanted to contribute this to this assessment and baseline study. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oka. Thank you for that contribution. Yes. So actually, baseline study gives you the level of the problem in that community. And needs assessment is to find out what is the real need. So like we stated, yeah, maybe in the course of the class, stating the two might seem like a mix-up, but thank you so much for making that clear. Thank you for your contribution.
All right. Do we have another question from Oka?
Yes.
Okay, please, when you are asking, just indicate. My name is this from Oka. We have 3 questions, so we can prepare our minds and take it at once. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm Stephen by name. Can you hear me? Hello?
Oh, yes, we can.
Yeah, I'm Stephen by name. I have 4 questions. 3 is going to be on community forum, and then 1 is on funding. The first one on community forum, I wish to ask, how do you handle unwillingness of the stakeholders to assist or cooperate in your consultation? Maybe they are not willing to divulge the required information, or maybe they are subjecting you to stringent protocol. So how do you handle that aspect? That's number 1 on community forum. Have you taken that, please? And then number 2.
Okay.
Okay, the second one on community forum. Must every project involve community forum or community consultation? For instance, if I wish to close an NGO that is geared towards creating a better awareness on how people perceive teaching profession in Nigeria, what community forum do I need to engage in such projects? That's number 2. And then number 3, under this community forum, must it be formal or informal? Formal in the sense that do I have to gather the people in the community in a hall and begin to declare my mission statement, or informally I make a contact one-on-one with them? That's the third question on that. And then coming to funding, if I have a project and it's still at the ideation stage, do I have to start saving my money from the ideation stage, or I rely on donors to fund and materialize such idea? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you for your question. So your first question was how to handle the unwillingness of the stakeholders in your community. And this is where soft skill is important. Essential soft skills, the skill of communication, the skill of collaboration. Because sometimes when we go into communities, we go with a messianic approach, a messianic mindset of, I am coming to save your community. And many times the leaders in that community feel insulted by that approach. You know how Africa is, we are big on respect, especially our elderly people. You know, so it is very important that we employ emotional intelligence, especially when we are going into communities to provide intervention. Because those subtle things there of saying, oh, we're coming to do this, maybe it could be an intervention on children's health. The children are dying, this, that. Some of the leaders in that community might feel like you were trying to tell them they're not doing enough. And so they might shun you, especially with your approach towards them, in telling them you are bringing this intervention. So soft skills is very essential. Right communication, employ emotional intelligence to let the people know that I am not coming in as a messiah or as a know-it-all. I'm coming to support you. I'm coming to support you in providing solutions. I'm here to assist you. I'm here to help you. And when you approach someone like that, as someone who is coming to help, who is coming to support, people will find a way of opening up to you to allow you to do your intervention. But of course, if the community is very, very resistant, very, very resistant towards your intervention, the sad thing is that program may not be very successful, because if it's a program or a project that involves putting in certain structures and providing certain infrastructure, they could vandalize it. So winning the cooperation of these individuals, these key individuals, it could be paramount rulers, or what have you, or religious leaders, winning their trust is very response to play. And the question you asked about the second question, please remind me of the second question. Hello, Mr. Stephen, are you still there? Okay, so the third question you asked was about funding. How to get funding if I'm not. Yeah, Mr. Stephen.
Hello.
Yeah, Mr. Stephen, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. The second question is, can I go ahead? The second
okay, please
question
go ahead.
Is, must every project require community forum?
Okay, good. Okay, so the question, must every project require community forum? Not every project requires community forum. Program development is very nuanced. We talked about talking about it. We talked about the community forum and then the stakeholders consultation. Some projects you may just meet the key stakeholders and ask them questions and get your information. We see this happen. You are in the development space, so of course you may have organized things like that before introducing your interventions to those communities. You gather key persons. It could be key persons in the NGO sector. Ask them questions. What are the needs in this community? What is the best approach to tackling it, and all of that. And you get your data, and with that you are able to start up something. But there are certain programs, there are certain projects that would require you to move further from having those stakeholders consultation to meeting the people in their community, especially if it is programs that have to do with health. Many times I see that the people have to organize these community forums to hear from the people. Two of them have the advantages and disadvantages, but it is, of course, it's not every program that requires community forum. Not so. It's for you to, as a development professional, for you to use your ingenuity or your instinct, because it's actually nuanced, for you to use your discretion to know this project needs community forum. This project needs just meeting key stakeholders. And then the third question you asked about implementing a project, do I really need, or does one really need to apply for grants, or do you fundraise, or do you generate the funds? So I'll use myself as an example. During the early days of my organization, I never applied for grants. Like, I never applied for any grants for years. I was able to depend on the support of well-meaning people in my community who, of course, this is why needs assessment is important. And like the lady who spoke earlier on, this is why needs assessment is very important, because the moment you are able to prove that this is a real need, not just an apparent, well-meaning people would be willing to support you from their resources. You know, they will be willing to support you. So during the early days of my organization, I was able to gain support from people. But of course, there's a level where you get to, and you you would need funding for bigger projects. You know, so that's what I would say in that regard. Yeah, someone commented and said, let me read the comment, because of course contribution is very important. It's advisable to do a community forum. This creates room for project ownership by community persons during implementation and post-implementation. And I absolutely agree. It depends on the strength, the longevity of that project. You know, many times you need to do community forum. Many times when you're trying to introduce an intervention to community, you would need community forum. So Stephen, thank you for your question.
All right, and Chibuzo, thank you for your answer.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'd
go
love to
ahead.
hear contributions from people, because we know this is American Corner. We have professionals amongst us. Please feel free to share your experience. Feel free to share your insights. Having done programs in your communities for several years, we need that. You know, your contribution is very important to us, because we are also, even as a facilitator, it will be a wonderful opportunity to learn from you as well.
All right, thank you very much. So questions, contributions, experiences, Chibuzo would like for you to all share. So if you have them, please keep those hands raised or keep the questions in the chat. We'll move over to my location, Ikeja. Please unmute yourself and give your question or contribution.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Okuchukwu Solomon, and I want to especially appreciate the speaker for the profound session. So basically, I've designed and executed about 4 programs for different organizations, and it's quite interesting, and also not just interesting, but looking at the value addition in terms of the exposure and the experiences you get to gather from designing these programs, outsourcing for funds, building new team, having to work with different people with different skills, different background, ideologies, and values. So it's quite an amazing one for me, because I'll be able to get some values and build a robust experience doing it. So my question is, why do organizations deviate from their mission or vision statement when they want to execute a program? For instance, maybe a particular organization, their thematic area, their core value is on education. But they noticed that, or they observed that that education is not bringing money to them, it's not bringing funds. That the area that is bringing fund is health, or in terms of a girl development or female development or something like that. Now, they now look at it and say, okay, this particular area we are focusing, which is their core value, or which is the why of the organization. They now deviate from it because it's not bringing fund. There are not funds coming from there. So they deviate to health because they want to get that fund. They could say, okay, because fund is coming from health, let's quickly design a program and execute in this health so that we can begin to use the pictures, the videos, the evidences there, and begin to outsource for fund. So what advice do you have for such organizations? Yeah. Though I have about 3 questions. This I'm for today, but in the previous session, I'm going to ask the remaining 3, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for your question. It's a very important question, and it's a question I've also contemplated on a number of times because we see this happen among several organizations. They leave their mission, their objectives, and then they jump in. Many times they do this because they need money. But the difference between an NGO and a business is a business tracks its success based on profit, and an NGO tracks its success based on the fulfillment of its vision and goals. So if an organization chooses to leave their vision and goals to do something else, it's going to lead them to a situation where they are faced with conflicts of interest. And it now becomes, it's all about the money. Because first of all, I know there is room for expanding your reach, but you also have to ask yourself, do we have the skill set? Do we have the experts in our organization that can provide a robust intervention for this issue? If we should delve into health, let's say we are an organization that is centered on education, and we choose to delve into a project on health, do we have the expertise to move into it? Because if you don't, then you're being totally insincere to yourself. And this is why we have big projects here and there by different organizations, because we have left the core thing they are skilled at to something else just because the money is coming in. So the advice I would have is, if an organization is looking to redesign its purpose and vision and objective, there is room for that if they want to incorporate new elements into the organization. They should ask themselves, are we equipped to delve into this angle? Do we have the expertise to delve into it? Because if you do not have the expertise, the best thing to do is step out of it, because you'll be causing more problems for yourself as an organization. Your reputation is very important. If your funders get to discover that actually what you have projected is not what you are offering, then you have put a scarlet mark on yourself. And next time you may not get funding. So it's good to stick to what you are known for. And if you want to expand your tentacles, make sure you have the expertise. Make sure that you are really grounded in providing solutions to the project you seek to solve. So that's what I would advise. And also, please, if there are our participants, if you have contributions, if you have anything to say in this regard, because this question he asked is a very important question, I would like you to share your contribution as well. If we have any other person who can add a thing or two to this question.
Okay, I see a lot of hand raised, but I don't know if there are questions or contributions to what has been asked. So I don't even know where to go from here. Okay, I believe that's all from Ikeja. So we would go to Maiduguri next. Okay, contribution from Angela. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we'll
Angela, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Sorry, I'm on the road, so there's lots of noise.
No problem.
Yeah, I want to contribute. Just like the facilitator has shared with us, it has to do with diversification. Like, I, for one, am into substance use, treatment, prevention, and continuous care for persons who have substance use disorder and substance use dependency. So, unfortunately for me, I observed that field is crowded a lot. Now, going through by my specialty, because I'm a clinical social worker, I do gender and development, I'm into health, and I'm into education. So what I did was that hello, can you hear me?
Oh yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
yes,
so what I did was that, so I now, fortunately, I stumbled into human trafficking. I got trained by the UNODC. So what I did was that I now diversified the fee. I went back to my NGO development, my mission, my purpose, and I made sure that handling issues on human trafficking was part of the key objectives that we have. So people will not just see us that we're just coming in for the key, for the money, but rather they will see that we have interest in doing the good work this field requires. So just like you said, they might be getting away with it. So the funds are available, they just rush into it and they do it to collect the funds. But down the line, what will be when they will eat it raw. So I want to have my own contribution is that so whatever when you're going to diversify, ensure that it's concrete, it's part of your agency goals, objectives, and mission and purpose. So it's not just they're not just there for the money. Just like the facilitator shared, NGO is not profit making. Rather, you're improving life, you're making a difference in society, and you're creating impact. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Angela, for that wonderful contribution.
Okay, we have Omolara next.
Omolara, yes.
Omolara.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So this is my contribution. Number one, I think some of us, we are yet to acknowledge or identify that NGO is not a competition, it's a collaboration. So when an opportunity comes to you that they need someone to do something, like maybe share food or carry out an health exercise, instead of referring an NGO that does that already, we will add that to what we do. Oh, I can do it. Then we add it to part of our programs. That's number one. Then secondly, I will use my organization as an example. As we are growing, we are seeing other needs in the community that we serve. And if it aligns with our vision, we'll add it to our program. So inception, you may not have the clear picture of what you are doing. Even after doing needs assessment and everything, there are still some things that you may not have access to, or some information that you're not private to. But as time goes on, you identify with these challenges and you add it to your program. So I think that is it. Then needs assessments. It's a bit difficult for us. I had a very bad experience some days ago. When you go to the communities that I serve, I don't want to mention names. At times, they tell you, instead of doing this program, convert it to funds, to cash, and give it to them, which will make us reluctant to say, okay, we want to do needs assessment. We see that they need this thing, and every child needs some basic things. I serve children, and just give it to them instead of doing the needs assessment, because you know they are the beneficiaries, the supervisors and all. They will ask you, oh, okay, bring it to us, we'll help you, or convert it to cash, we'll use it for something else. That's my contribution.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that insightful contribution.
Yes, thank you. So let's move to Maiduguri now.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone there. Are you hearing me, please?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. The program has been so interesting, and indeed, we are glad to be part of it. As a director in the American Speaks Maiduguri, we are really bad when we discover that the network, to some extent, or a great extent, is not allowing us to hear some of the discussions that are going on. So it's been so difficult for us to get along. At a point, the thing is clear, at a point it's not clear, and it's not easy. So I'm appealing if the organizers of the program can allow us as directors to have the recorded versions of this program so that we can have a follow-up for the programming. That is just number one. Number two is like an observation and a question, so to say. In our discussion of today, we discovered that the 7 steps models of under step 3 and step 5, it appears to me as if there are similarities. In step 3, we were told to identify funding processes. That is talking about how much money is needed, the budgeting that is needed, and things like that. Going to step 5 also, there is the need for us to design and establish the funding, the people and the collaborators that are involved. So a budget therefore need to be created and things like that. So my question is there a difference between the two, that is step 3 and step 5? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, you know, one of the beautiful things about this this slide or this lesson is that the American space has really tried as much as they could to make this as detailed as possible. Now, it may seem like it's almost the same thing, but of course, if you look closely, you will see that there are a few differences. The goal is just to make sure that you are able to take note of the intricate details of all the processes involved. You know, the funding, how to seek funding, and how to set your budget. And then the other part talks about how to channel those funds. So if you look at it closely, you would see that there are definitely a few differences between 3 and 5, even though it may look on the surface that it's one and the same thing. But the goal there is just to make us have a detailed understanding of what the processes are, so that we can completely take proper note of it. And of course, we are going to have another class on Monday, so it makes it easy. And then another one eventually, and another one eventually. So, you know, so one of the things I would encourage us to do is, as we by the end of the class, you could go through those slides and study it carefully. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Chibuzo. To answer your first question, we usually send out the recordings of all the sessions. So from the beginning of this course up until now, we always prepare the recordings and share with the participants so they can rewatch. And of course, we can share it with you to, you know, host a watch party for participants in your space so they can catch up with what they missed as a result of the network. So with that being said, do we have any final questions or contributions? The session is gradually coming to an end. Let me take some reactions from the chat. Thank you, Chibuzo. Many thanks, Chibuzo. That was splendid. Thanks, speaker. Okay, right. All right, one final question or contribution from Abdulhamid Amao. Okay, please unmute yourself and ask.
Good morning, good afternoon. Okay, please, I would like to know about the process of getting the missed sessions, because I joined the course in the middle. Now, I question for the course for today is, if one is in a process of a project, like you have done your needs assessment. Let's take, for instance, you are doing a WASH project program. Then you notice that there is even maybe you were trying to create a borehole or another water supply system. And you notice that there is a more need for maybe a health intervention that is more urgent than this thing. And the funding you got from your sponsors is for maybe the borehole or any other this. Can you divert that money to that aspect? Or what is to be done in such an instance?
Okay, thank you so much for asking that question. Yes, I totally understand the question. So here is a question, here is a project that you've received funding for. And the project is for water, providing potable water for a particular community. And in the process of doing that project, you discover that there is another need, and that need is about health. we have to remember that this particular project you're working on is a different project entirely from the one you have discovered. And even though maybe some way, somehow they are tied, it's important that you stick to what the water project you are working on, because it's a different project entirely, or else you would find yourself in a mode of confusion, trying to grapple with two needs with limited resources. So the best thing to do is to stick to the water project. And if you follow from the beginning, when we're talking about project development, you said it's an ongoing process. So if you, along the line, you discover that the health component or the health issue you've discovered is somehow linked to the water project, you now think of how to develop a broader intervention that would cover that health, so long as you have the expertise, so long as your organization has the expertise in handling that. But most important thing is you have to go back to the drawing board. What are the goals? What are the objectives? The objectives of this project you're working on. And if the health project has no connection to it, and if you do not have expertise to handle that, I would encourage you to please leave the health project and stick to the water project. Because it's back to what I said about this messianic thinking. If you carry that, you may discover that you've ended up not providing any solution whatsoever. The resources are limited. So you stick to what you have and the project you have at hand until there is ample amount of resources, and also until you have the expertise required to meet that need. And then you can now design the program, develop the program such that it incorporates that particular need. Yeah. So that's what I would say regarding that question. Thank you for asking.
Right, and thank you so much for answering and for facilitating this wonderful session today. We have finally come to the end of today's class. It's 1 o'clock and we have to bring the session to a close. A few announcements before I leave. Thank you so much again, Chibuzo. We look forward to seeing you in the next session
Thank you, Stephanie.
on Monday, same time by 11. But great anchor, thank you. Thank you very much. Someone is asking about the previous sessions for those online. So if you would like to have the previous videos, previous sessions like needs assessment, which we finished just before this one, and you can see as facilitator today kept referring to, needs assessment and all of that, you can send us an email. Hopefully you registered for this workshop, and I can put the link in the chat again for you to register. And then we can send you an email, or you can send an email to us requesting for the links to previous sessions, and you can just rewatch them. Trust me, it is packed with information, valuable information that you need and you can use. So please reach out to us for whatever session you're looking to have, and we'll send it over to you. Okay. And for those of you that registered, you should that will be able to attend the session. I'll find the information we're sharing very useful as well. So thank you all so much again. We look forward to seeing you again next week Monday for the continuation of this important topic, program development. But for now, I'll say bye from here, and thank you all so much. And to our speaker, we appreciate you as always. Thank you.